All right, I'm Will,
And I'm Steven,
and
and
this
this
is the
is the
Post P
Post Chronicles.
Chronicles.
Hey, what up, say? Yeah.
Before you guys get started, I know it's been a while, but don't forget, like, subscribe, share. We got some amazing stories, amazing testimonies. People are doing great things for the world and for themselves and for the community. So the more likes and shares, subscribes we get, the more people will get reached by these stories. So, Will, who do we got today?
Well, you know what I'm gonna say? We have an incredible guest. She's doing some incredible things. She's trying to save the world one person at a time. And before we get into that story, I just want to introduce the mother, the artist, the justice advocate, Miss Ella Bridge. How are you doing today? Welcome to Post P Chronicles.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being on the Chronicles and meeting both of you. I'm doing well. Like I say, I get a little jittery, but we'll get going. So I'm doing well.
Hey,
Thank you.
there's nothing wrong with a little jitters. We're gonna loosen you up a little bit and talk about you. Yes, you are the star of the show. We want to get to know you, so let the people know who you are. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Los Angeles, predominantly Venice and Santa Monica.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I went to Santa Monica High School, Olympic, dropped out for a while, came back, started painting signs on the Venice boardwalk at 18. I had my own paint crew before that for about a year. Um, I moved, I guess to go back, I moved out at 13. So I sort of
Wow.
hustled along the way to take care of myself, as well as like I got to live with one of my best friends, and then I would go back home for a second, but generally was out. And I was a child actress for a few years before that, so I saved up some money and I could do my life in a safer way than being home.
So it's real
um
quick, moving out
yeah.
at 13, that's obviously very young and not typical. What prompted you to move out at 13? Do you have a toxic home environment? Was there just had to get away? What was going on in your home life at the time?
Yeah, I think it had been pretty toxic since I was real small, and then it sort of escalated. We moved out of a hippie camp and then moved to Los Angeles when I was just about 8 and got dropped into a completely different world. I was already pretty independent by then and had like a sense of who I was in the world. And I already started ditching school in third grade and exploring. And I had already been observing the suffering on the planet and dynamics between people. I remember at 4 just feeling so hurt already by the way people treated each other, um, and how I was being treated. And so something I always went for the underdog since I was little. So it was like it was a magnet, and I loved children. Like I would gather children at 6 to read to them, and that was my happy
6 years
place.
old. At six
Yeah,
years old.
at 6 years old. And it was interesting because people treated me like kind of like a little adult. They would leave their babies with me at 6, when they would go around the camp or whatnot. So I felt like I was ready to have a baby at 6 years
Wow.
old.
Wow. Well, hopefully you
Um,
didn't.
Yeah.
yeah, thank
Hopefully
God
you
my body
didn't.
wouldn't have let that happen.
But I just want to ask a question because I can honestly say this is the first person I've ever met who lived in a hippie camp, right? I mean, I don't know
I
about
think
you,
you're
Steven. I've
exactly
never heard that. So,
Oh,
you
my
know,
mom lived in a hippie camp during the 60s. So,
what?
yeah, she dropped
where
out of
where at?
UCLA and moved to
You're new.
Colorado and joined a commune.
So you're
Which
not new
where
to
in
this.
So
I
I'm
am.
not unfamiliar with it.
Man. So I
where
mean,
in
how was it? I
Colorado?
heard it was toxic, but at the same time, I heard it was like you found who you were at that point in your life. And are you still that person? I mean, 8 years old is a young age to say, this is who I am, this is who I'm gonna be. right? Because we start to grow up and learn more things. But do you feel like that the heart of who you are is still that same 8-year-old girl?
Yes.
Man.
I think in a way that it is. I mean, there was a lot there. So the hippie camp was a Unitarian Universal camp. And my mom ran it at the young age of she was a teen mom, and she started running it at 23, I think, just by, I don't know how that happened. Um, and I was the only child for a while on the camp. So the staff were all young, and they were kind of partying and doing their thing, and there was a lot of neglect on my part. So um naked at the pool, a lot of sex, like I was just around that sort of liberation, that energy from this youth, which is
Right.
beautiful for them, and as a child was really felt unsafe. I started working really young at 6 in the kitchen, and that gave me like a sense of safety and belonging and purpose. So I was the scullery person. I did all the dishes for like, 50 to 100 campers, and I loved it. And I would set all of the tables and, like I said, watch the kids and whatever I could kind of do to not feel so lonely. Um, and then, yeah, then we moved out when I was about 8 to Santa Monica. And then it began this whole other journey. My mom she married a guy who was quite unkind to me. And I mean, if I'm being transparent, yeah, I became suicidal by about 9, 10, and really felt unwell. So I started taking to drugs and alcohol at 12, which saved my life,
Mm.
honestly, at that
Wow.
point. Yeah, I got to finally, again, feel like myself, like some authenticity for the first time in a way I hadn't, or freedom. I had a sense of control at that point when I could like check out. And then I started acting pretty seriously. I had a series for 2 years on HBO and did commercials and all this. And I started kind of going into the Hollywood scene, and then had pretty intense experience there. So I jumped out, and then I moved out.
Man. I mean, you lived a long life from 13 years old. From 13 years old, you had experienced a lot. And I want to speak to one thing that jumped out at me when you said drugs saved your life. Now, I've never heard that before, but I always say prison saved my life. So without judging, I want to, talk briefly on that and describe that feeling of how you feel like your life was saved through drugs and alcohol.
Right. And let me know, it was temporary. I didn't have to do a huge drawn long out journey. God's always, and not in like a religious way, but the spirit has always looked out for me. So
Hmm.
I can do something really hard and really fast and see what the outcome's going to be, and then I check out on it. Like I'm like, okay, that was that stage. So saving my life, like I said, when you finally get to make sense of yourself, inside of yourself and in the world for the first time, and the authenticity, it was like I was meeting myself and I was escaping simultaneously. So I didn't feel that deep pain and suffering for a little while. It was like, you know what I mean, you get the break. So it was a reprieve and super needed and super good. I happened to hang out with a lot of young people who came from really broken places, and we found each other. It's like yeah, little street gang and graffiti crew in Westwood, and they saved my life because I got to go there and be who I was at that moment. I was rowdy. I like to party. I like to get into stuff. Um, and then, like I said, I put myself into rehab at 14 on my own. I
Wow.
had really good insurance from acting, and I ended up, am I really doing this? Okay. I
Yeah,
ended up
talk about
smoking
it.
crack with a pimp across the street from school. I went to
Dang.
buy some weed and he spit out rocks and nobody knew what crack was.
Mm.
I mean, when you're 14, it just
Yeah.
was talked about at high school or in our circles. Um, and he said, you want to try this? He took out the glass, whatever, put it in. And I, I have, I felt so good that it terrified me. And I knew that I had just faced like like the devil, like an
Wow.
evil. And so I went into the cab that my girl was in. I was like, we gotta go. I just met something so deep. And I went home because I was back home and I said, I'm going to rehab. And I was gone for months.
First time. And she said, I need to go to rehab. This is real.
Wow. I
Good
mean,
self-awareness, though, to know that
Great
something
self-awareness.
so bad can lead you down such a dark path that you gotta stop now, or otherwise it's gonna be your undoing.
yeah, I saw myself upstairs. He had girls upstairs. He had invited me up. I said no. And I saw how it all went. Um, so I think the rehab was amazing for me and sort of instilled the program ways that I've always kept with me. I didn't stay sober throughout time, but generally, because I moved to San Francisco at 15, dropped out of high school and worked, and I lived with my boyfriend at that time. But I ended up finishing high school on time with my class with honors, because I did 2 years in one at a continuation school. Thank God for Olympic. Um, and then the paint journey began, painting the signs. Um, moved to Napa with my guy I was with off and on for 7 years. It was just like a little adult life.
I mean, it sounded like you had a lot of adventures, a lot
So,
of adventures in a very short amount of time, too.
yeah, still is. But anyway, so to cut to it, um, I ended up painting, fine painting. I didn't know I was a fine painter until I tried to get into one of the top art schools and I got on in full scholarship right at the bat. That was validating and I wasn't ready for it. So I didn't really go. I didn't take it. And then I started designing clothes, which I was with someone at the time that was in celebrity status. And he, like got me in the door. And then all of a sudden, I was on the red carpet and I was making clothes for certain celebrities. And I was also, this is real. This is like a story we're doing here. Okay.
An amazing story.
Um, I was diagnosed with manic depression at 19. So when I was designing clothes, I was in the heart of this illness that I also wasn't familiar with because
Right.
no one had it in around me other than my ex-boyfriend's mom. It's actually who recognized it in me when I was 19. So by the time I was 23 and making these clothes and that was starting to lift, I was like a master sabotager. I didn't know how to sustain good at that point. There was just so much wreckage and stuff that happened in all of those years. My self-worth and confidence was low, but then I had this other like grandiose, other side. So many journeys, a few nervous breakdowns, almost took my life many times. Really wanted to have a baby throughout the entire time and realized later that that was just needing that sense of grounding and purpose and something to really love. I loved loving. I'm just like, I love to love. But I waited and I waited till 32. Sometimes not by choice, but God. And then my son came and it's like, when you know something when you're small will be the medicine. And that's why at 4, 5, 6, I like knew this person that I got to usher in Yeah.
everything. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
It gets me.
You know, it's crazy you say that because I always say like I never wanted to be anything like as a child, you know, because I want to be a football star, I want to be a doctor, I want to be this, I want to be that. All I ever wanted to be was a father. Like though that was my dream. I wanted to be a dad. And so I know that feeling that you had growing up because now that I have it, and it's frustrating because I got three older ones. I got them when he was older. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to
What
have
do
the
you
baby.
mean?
And you know, well, you know, I got married and my wife had three kids, and I myself, I don't like the term step parent. You know, I don't like to consider them stepchildren because it's just very divisive, and I love them, and I get to pour into them, and they're my kids, and because I got them older, they're frustrating, but this is what I asked for, and God is like, you
Mm.
asked for this, now deal with it. And I love it though. Like I love the frustration where I get to learn and they give me patience. That's what children are for. And the thing that I prayed for the most in my life is patience. And he said, you ask for something, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to give you a way to practice it. Right. And that's what I got. These kids give me patience. So, uh,
Mm, that's
yeah, I
beautiful.
completely understand. And I see that's your boy right there on the back of the refrigerator right there, huh?
I mean, now he's 17 and a
Yeah,
half,
he's a bigger
but
boy than that.
that seems
He's,
tiny.
he's a much bigger boy than that.
You can
And
see that?
very
Oh,
smart, very handsome, very respectful. I got an opportunity to meet him.
mm,
Um, and I met you and I met your mom. And, you know, to hear your story now, I didn't know all of the things that you went through in your life, but to hear that and to know you now is just, it makes it that much more amazing, right? That's why I love, I know Stephen can speak to this. I love hearing people's stories. Everyone has such a unique story, and you never know how unique until you have the opportunity to talk to them. And
yeah.
so let's talk about, you know, we talked about the mother, you know, we talked about the artist. Let's talk about the justice advocate. And
How did
what
that
is
come
the big,
about? Out of
yeah.
drugs and manic depression and, you know, searching all over the, you know, California and trying to find a place of belonging and always wanting to help people. How does that settle on the justice impacted with your upbringing? So let's hear about that.
Um, yeah. Well, let's see. I guess I'll skip some steps. I knew that I was born to be a part of this sustainable movement of health and well-being in the planet. I don't say saving it because yeah, that just isn't, that's not where I'm coming from. There's no saving, right? There's growing and healing within, and then upping the sort of frequency there, and then we all lift and rise like in like a beautiful way. And anyways, I don't have to get into that, but I guess I'll just jump to 5 years ago, right after COVID started. um you know, it was George Floyd and Breonna and Elijah and Ahmaud, and it just kept coming. And I somehow looked down and there was an interview of a young man in the GQ magazine, Joshua Williams. And it was like a fierce just wave of that. His story was so compelling. He was 18. He was in the Ferguson riots in 2014. He was a peaceful protester marching for Michael Brown. And at that peaceful protest, another peer was shot and killed and left in the street. And out of devastation, him and several others, you know, ran up on this little quick store or whatever, and he went in and stole under $500 and lit two trash cans on the outside on fire. He ended up bleh, he ended up getting 8 years for that. So reading it, I was like, no. So I chose to start fighting for Joshua. That was interesting because I had never done anything of the sort. So I just started calling the prison, finding out where it was, why he wasn't getting off, you don't get answers until you're on the contact list. He was in the hole, had been in the hole for like a year already. Finally he got me on because I was writing him. It grew, and for almost 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, I advocated without ever getting to even talk to him. Maybe it's like a year and a half, because he didn't have a tablet. You know what I mean? It was just that way. And then I remember the day I got the phone call, and it was like the best day. What an angel person. So then I became a real advocate. I learned to call, make sure he was getting mental health care, his medication. He tried to take his life twice, 2.5 years ago. It's just been a journey. And through him, guys started calling me. You got to have Ella back you on this. So then Antonio,
Is he currently out, or is he still in, out of curiosity?
no, we're going to plug him right now again.
Okay.
Yeah. He's at the nucleus really of how this has been born. So it went from him to him to him. And then just over a year ago, one of the guys, Clarence Taylor, came through him, and he had been wrongfully convicted. He was completely innocent and had been in his 26th year at that point, went in at 18. And this man, he's 46 now, was such a profound spirit and soul. I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm about ready to take an innocence case on. Like, I went straight at it in several months. First, I had to advocate almost daily for his health because they were neglecting his teeth. He ended up having 12 teeth pulled, etc. It's just, I actually really want to talk about the conditions. I work solely with Missouri right now, and solely men prisons. So there's 4 of them. And I do want to spend like 5 minutes cracking open the reality of what we're condoning and we're not aware of in this country. Anyways, so this went to an innocence case. I did the whole entire thing and put it on the circuit attorney's desk on my own in February, going hard, and we're in a really good place. And so now I have 4 other innocence cases, and I've become a paralegal as well through this. And I've created the Raw Justice Haven, which is a nonprofit. And I have youth nonprofit that I've created that we're launching both right now. Anyways, it's a little bit of stuff, great stuff.
Some amazing things.
Yeah, so it's amazing. My life is very full, and it's been a lot of trauma for me to walk this path with these men who are tortured day in and day out. Will and Stephen, did you do time? I don't know how that.
I did not.
You did not. Okay. Well, Will, you know how it can go.
I would say this though, even though Stephen hasn't done time, Stephen has been speaking in juvenile halls. He's been speaking in some of the worst prisons in the world, right? In different countries. What is that one story you always tell, Stephen, where you
Oh yeah, in
minister?
Kenya, there's a river of feces flowing through my legs as I was preaching in Kenya. So I know about bad prison conditions, but yeah, prisons in United States all over and in all over countries. But yeah, but we're tracking with you. You can keep going with your story.
Oh, okay. Where which oh,
We're
so I
talking about
think the conditions.
right.
And I know there's so much to go on.
What is one of I'll ask a specific question because you said you work specifically with Missouri and you wanted to talk about some of the worst conditions that these men face in these prisons. So, what is one of the worst conditions, one of the worst conditions that you want to speak about right now?
I only get to speak about one.
Well, let's start with one. Let's start with one and let's snowball from there.
Okay, because that's gonna be easy. I think the worst that I've heard in a moment was because I'm in contact with the guys all the time. One of the inmates was literally just pulled out by a correctional officer and beaten and raped. And he actually did it in front of people this time. And they, yeah, see, this can just keep going. So that was one of the worst that I had heard, like, here. And was I clear that Missouri has been my focus because that's where Josh came out of, and that's where the guys, it's just grown there. And there's not enough of me or bandwidth to go outside of it. And it's also, Missouri is one of the most antiquated of the systems in our country. It is KKK like operated, and it's terrifying. And yeah, so I can go into conditions. And then I also want to say, in America, we're taught under this illusion, that illusion is strong in America, but we're taught that we're protecting and serving. And as we see all the time on the outside, that doesn't happen a lot. I mean, I can't say it doesn't happen a lot, but there's also so much corruption, right? And so we're taught inside the prisons that we're actually like keeping it together and it looks a certain way. And what I've gotten to learn through this experience, and not just with the inmates, but speaking to ex-staff, so it's confirmed, we've built concentration camps. We have modern day concentration camps. Like, there's no other way around it. They're in boxes, they're living in feces, they don't get clean water. And then they do sometimes. They are just for fun, tortured. The correctional staff at this point, and it has escalated in the last 6 months, are high on K2. So they're smoking, but then they're giving inmates violations for being high. They're supplying, as we know, don't even need to get into that because that's like a whole underground, railroad of drug, like all through the staff and DOC. They are, I mean, I could just tell you, one guy through one of my dear people has been watching his person 2 doors down in ADSEG. He's been in the hole for now 13, 14 months for something he didn't do. Again, staff coerces and they put someone violent in with someone that's all right, just to let you know how it goes. Let them fight and then write them both up. You're in there. This is a level 5 prison mixed with level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they combine them all, which is also, it should be illegal. You have someone going in there for, say, robbery, and you're in there with murderers, you're probably not going to make it out because you're going to have to fight, right? It's like they breed you for this. So anyways, the other day, 2 doors down, his friend has been suicidal. You don't want to say you're suicidal because suicide watch is 2 weeks stripped naked on a freaking bed with a fan on you. Like, it's hell. So no one wants to say it, but he's dying over here. And he's my guy's little brother, and he's covered in feces and he's smeared it everywhere in the room from depression. I mean, he's going crazy and he's lonely. And they won't touch it. They just throw the food in and they throw the medication in. They don't want to clean up poop, So it stays for several days. They strap you to the bench, keep you there until, you speak up for yourself, and then you're maced. I mean, it's just sort of this constant fight for your life, and you're written up for false positive urine samples all the time, which adds another year sometimes to their sentence. They're just, so many of them are trapped. So and the drugs and rape are out of control. It's beyond. and
So,
we don't
so
talk about it.
as an advocate and as a paralegal, how do you come in and help these people? That's my question. Because obviously it sounds like they're in a rough situation. How can you maybe help deliver them from that situation?
Right, the advocacy. I you
And
get
do
on.
people believe you oftentimes with obviously these accusations? I'm sure it's your word versus theirs, right? And I'm sure they'll listen to a CO any day over an inmate, correct?
Who are we talking
Oh,
about?
if you're going to a judge, you're advocating about these conditions or things that are happening. I'm sure. I know East Coast there's a lot of corruptions with the correctional officers. How do they tend to believe you versus what the word of a corrections officer would say? So I'm just curious how the process of what you do to go in and advocate for them is helping.
First, I've never spoken to a judge about this. You go to either the DOC, which is just outside of the prisons. They sort of, that's, you're supposed to be able to go there and watch things happen. Sometimes they assist and sometimes they don't. A lot of them haven't even been in the prisons in 20, 25 years themselves. So they go by, they want to be removed, I think, right? They'll fight, and sometimes a lot of the time they'll act like they're going to do something and they don't. So a lot of the advocacy and pushing comes from within the facility, and it is a part-time job. um, I definitely through the Haven will be equipping parents and families on the questions to ask, how to stick with it. It takes me an hour sometimes for mental health to even answer. Once they see that this inmate, this man is getting attention, and these questions are being pushed, like what medication are they on, this is happening, I'm seeing that this is happening and he needs this, I just got him this on his canteen. So you just start, I do, making the notes and sticking with the imminent issues. Like per se, Clarence wasn't getting any care in his teeth, so it was a constant calling, building the relationship with Centurion on the outside, saying that this staff was lying, and you just go for it with kindness but with assertiveness, and they'll take you off the ER and say, oh, you're not on there, and then we got to do the whole process again. But it always works if
So
you.
you're basically bringing in a level of accountability. You start asking questions and start fishing around instead of wanting to get exposed. They start giving them the care that they need and deserve. Is that what I'm hearing? You're basically holding people accountable that need to be held accountable.
Right, without pissing them off per se, because it can happen really fast. They like to the correctional officers, and you have a list of the ones that are on repeat, like that show up often in these false violations or assaults. That is also helpful because you can there's a paper trail between me and the guys. So we have proof now. Now, as a paralegal, I get to do legal calls. Thank the God, because that has helped a lot. So you get the legal call in, and teaching parents. What I've noticed is so many moms are so traumatized, just from their own life pre-incarceration with their child, into knowing what the child's going through, and they don't quite have the energy. So I want to learn how to like nourish them, empower them, and bring them back to a new beginning. And there is a shift happening right now amongst advocators and mothers and the women on the outside. Things are going to crack open right now, and it's pretty amazing. um I think we're taught that it's impenetrable, and they make it feel that way. But once you realize that they're people, and they operate as we all do on energy, we shift our energy into a non-resistance but assertive and clarity, and things move. And the guys on the inside that I work with, we're using this new sort of, I'll call it curriculum that we've come up with together, because they're going to help with the haven when they get out. They're helping within. But we're trying to like shift their insides so it's not fighting against, because that's where more pain comes in. But it's more shifting it with well-being internally and sort of this new freedom within. And they're seeing the change and the shift. It's pretty beautiful. And it's fun because, you know, we get kind of like, we do animal noises if they're feeling crazy in the hole, and we're like, raw, or, you know, like, anyways, sing whatever we got to do to just sort of keep the light in. Yeah, there's so much,
So
right?
what I want to say, what you're doing is so extremely important because I mean, what Steven said is very true. It's like you have inmates who are saying stuff, but who's going to believe them? They're criminals, right? But the truth is, what they're experiencing in Missouri, you know, they used to have the gladiator schools right here in Corcoran Shoe. In the Corcoran Shoe in California, they used to, and it's well known back in the 90s, they would kick certain inmates out from different, you know, Hispanics or the blacks, and the SEALs would bet on it, right? This was a thing that they did that nobody spoke about until people started speaking about it, right? So what you're doing, you're shedding light, and you're putting, you know, you're shedding light in all the dark spots in Missouri prisons, right? And like you said, it's not to fight against them. Would you say we don't want to fight against them? We just want to more well-being, freedom from within, you know.
Exactly.
And that's the really important thing because I mean, if you're not really changing the mindsets of the person, but you're making them safer in there when they get out, they're gonna stay with the same mindset,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and I
So
know
a
in
lot,
California, all the accountability now, the inmates could file complaints, full-on investigations
yeah,
happen. If multiple inmates, you know, if an inmate were to be raped in California by a CO, all these complaints would be filed and that guy would be gone, you know, tomorrow. So a lot of inmate rights could come from all the stuff that's been going on. But yeah, you got to be strategic and you got to do it the right way. And it sounds like in Missouri, you're doing it the right way through at least keeping them accountable. And that can hopefully lead down the line to a reform of how the corrections officers work and operate in Missouri. And then that way it'll lead to more rights and more safety and better operations, right? So, I mean, you're doing something that it sounds like California did, you know, 30 years ago, but you're ahead of your time there in Missouri. So keep fighting the good fight. I mean, we need that because if there's no one to advocate for them, they're just, you know, like you said, they're hopeless, they're suicidal, they're depressed, they feel like there's nothing for them. So we definitely need people like you on the outside that are poking their nose around and investigating. Because if I know if I'm doing something wrong and someone's asking a lot of questions about me, I'm gonna have to, you know, be a little more buttoned up because I don't want to get exposed, right? So you are definitely on the right track.
yeah.
Well,
And
thank
one thing
you.
I want to add to that,
Yeah.
that you know what Steven said, you know, they're hopeless, they're suicidal, they're you feeling all these different things. Majority of them are coming home. So who do you want to be coming home into these communities? You
Mm,
said they're on a yard with level fives, four, three, two, one. One of the people that you're advocating for, they have 8 years. A lot of them probably are coming home. They don't have life sentences. So yes, if they're suicidal, if they're depressed, if they're angry, if they're violent, if they have all of these emotional triggers, and then they get released to the street,
right.
what do you think is going to happen to them?
They're
Right.
going to
So
go
that
back
is
in and the system is going to
exactly.
benefit.
The system
I
is going to
mean, the
benefit,
system is set up perfectly to keep us running the bloodline. It's
not,
like,
but not even just going back in, they're coming out into society. So they're going to hurt people, right? So
but
they're going
that's
to
what I'm
hurt other
saying.
people around them. They're going to just,
Yeah.
they're going to continue to destroy these communities. They're going to continue to rip apart families, right?
Yeah.
But they're
Toxic
inmates.
cycle.
So why not make them better, right? Why not make them better?
But that's what we're trying to come up with. If like I'm just saying, if the system isn't broken, it's working, right? They benefit off of keeping us down and sick and dangerous because then they pull us back in, and
Right.
usually it pulls someone else back in. So it runs. So I've been trying to, and by the way, I want to plug Changing Corrections, which is an incredible nonprofit in Missouri, Justice for All. they're killing it in doing this work. And we're trying to come up with a way in numbers of how it's all money, right? How can they benefit financially from doing the correctional staff doing their own work internally, where they come to work feeling better and they're kinder and they still make all the money that they're making, because they make a lot of money. They make money on each person that they keep incarcerated, that they write up. I mean, it's right. So if we can figure out how the system will benefit and save money and make more money, then I think we're in the business of that. But until then, it's groundwork and it's underground. We're just like forming this new really strong movement that will take the power away by healing and looking at our trauma and cycles, and offering true, like a safe place to come to and release, let go, heal, and then bring that on the outside, and go to the youth. You know, it's also, as you know, most of these kids go out on the street and start hustling tiny to bring money home to the mom, the family, and then the gang, and then it's a rite of passage from gang life into prison life. So it's also like illuminating all of this and bringing in a new way, but we all get to do it together or it's not going to shift, right? Yeah. Yeah, and real quick, because you brought up Joshua, the 8 years, he was supposed to be out 4 years ago, and he got another false violation added on of 2 more years. That I actually just got an interview from the guy that was there, and he has just validated that that Josh didn't do it. So
He's been doing 10 years for stealing $500 and lighting 2 trash cans on fire.
11.
11. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to be jumping into that again to fight hard. If whoever sees this, if you know of someone that wants to fight with us, but we need to get him out because he's trapped. He's back in the hole. He's become addicted to drugs pretty significantly over the last 5 years to make it through. He just had another suicide watch. It's dangerous. And he gets targeted he just got thrown over a banister by one of the staff, 2 months ago. So, but he's, like I said, the nucleus of this entire beautiful coming together. And I'm so grateful to him because I've met all of the 11 guys that I'm in touch with and advocating with, fighting beside, through Joshua Williams. And he's a light. I love him very much. And we need him out here because he's freaking powerful. I also wanted to plug one more, Resilience to Redemption. This is a podcast by Madeline Carthrin. She's a reverend, and her podcast has inmates and ex-staff and present staff all on it. So it's a great podcast, and I can send it over to you.
Yes, go ahead and send it over to me because I was about to look it up right now. Go ahead and send it over to me. I mean, your story, I mean, from your childhood all the way up into the advocacy work that you're doing now is amazing, Ella. You're doing amazing
work. Let's plug your socials too. And how can people get in contact with you? What's your company website? What are ways people can reach out to you? Because you said if you can help or you know anything or anybody to reach out, how can they reach out and talk to you?
Thank you. It's going to be Raw Justice Haven, HAVEN.org. I'm going to, at the end of this, ask that you wait to put this on because we're finishing the site right now. And actually at 2:30, I'm finishing it with Clarence Taylor. He'll be in prison while we inform it. But yeah, so if you could give me just till then, it should be up soon. That would be very helpful. And then my Instagram page was just for Joshua Williams, and I've just changed it to the Haven. So I'll put a little content up there, and then it'll be like a package. I'm freaking terrified. I'm not going to watch this interview. There's no freaking way.
So the Instagram is what?
Raw Justice Haven.
Raw Justice Haven. Okay.
Yeah, and RAW is an acronym for Rooted and Winged.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ella. I mean, again, amazing work. Keep doing it. Don't stop. Keep fighting. And we appreciate you so much. Appreciate you so much.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. I mean, you got to be a voice to the voiceless, because if not, nothing's going to change, right? So you're doing the right work. I mean, I'm sure it's frustrating and it's fruitless some days, but you got to look at the big picture, and you got to be in this for the long run. And we appreciate what you do.
thank you. I appreciate what you both do and who you are, man. I love watching you guys out there. And I think our paths will cross again in the work. I believe that. I've always had like I love you, Will, since the day I met you. You're such a light.
Amazing. Appreciate you so much. So once again, I'm Will,
And I'm Steven.
and this is the Post P
Post P
Chronicles.
Chronicles.
Hey, what up, say?